Chris, knowing what you know today, would you spend another $4,000 on a laptop?
If you're on the market for a laptop, and if you plan to travel around the world and do trading or do business or whatever, you need a laptop and you need to hear what I'm about to tell you. In this video, I'm actually gonna go over 4 of my laptops, and I'm gonna give you guys information about if I think it's worth having a high-end laptop for trading or for just everyday business use. If you guys follow my channel, my name is Chris and I make videos here regarding trading software tutorials. If you guys use brokers like Interactive Brokers, or if you use Sierra Chart, hit me up because I can assist you with using those softwares. Now, this laptop right here is an ASUS ProArt StudioBook, and I've had it for 1 year now, and I just got it back from a second repair job. I had the laptop repaired twice, and I certainly have my thoughts about it now. So much so that I actually went out and I bought myself a brand new Lenovo ThinkPad for about a quarter of what this ASUS is worth. This is what the ThinkPad looks like. It's a little 14-inch beast, okay? And it actually resembles my very old ThinkPad, which is this thing, which is easily 15 years old, and it still boots. I installed Fedora on it, Fedora Linux, and it still boots and runs fine. Whereas this beast over here, 1 year in, and the thing is making all kinds of noises. I feel like I'm at some kind of a construction factory. And last but not least, out of the 4 laptops, this right here was the trusty replacement laptop that my father lent me while this ASUS was out getting repaired. Twice, by the way, in the last month. In the whole month of October, this ProArt got sent back to ASUS twice, and I was using this Dell as a backup.
Can you compare your Dell laptop and your ASUS laptop?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say they're actually pretty close in terms of performance. After having tested them and having edited videos on both of them, as well as trading on both of these laptops, I have a few things to say in regards to the performance of these 2 machines. Now, let's talk first about the ProArt StudioBook. So this laptop right here, this is a really beefy machine in the sense that it has a NVIDIA RTX 4070 graphics card, which is really, really good for video editing, video encoding. So when it comes to exporting videos, this thing is an absolute beast. Now, it also has a really beefy processor in there, an Intel 13th generation. And because of those 2 things, unfortunately, the battery life on this thing is absolutely disgraceful. Like, it barely will last you 2 hours if you're lucky, okay? But the thing is, the trade-off you get with this laptop is you get a beautiful OLED screen, which is probably the best screen I've seen on a laptop ever, I'll be honest with you. That's the best thing about this machine. And afterwards, I'm gonna talk to you about the build quality of these 2 laptops. Obviously, the ProArt is way faster, but not by a lot, because I did quite a bit of video editing on this Dell, and I was able to do my workflow just fine, you know? And I wanna inform you guys that it's really not important to get the top of the line performance machine, because the difference is gonna be very negligible. You're not really gonna notice much of a difference if it takes, 30 minutes longer to render a video, or if it takes, 10 seconds longer to do something. You're really not gonna notice a difference. But where you will notice a difference, in my opinion, is in the overall reliability of the laptop and, the features that it offers. So let's start with the build quality. So this ProArt, guys, is almost $4,000 price tag in Canadian dollars. I personally think the build quality on this machine is extremely poor after owning it for over a year, in the sense that, look, if I press on the bottom of it, it feels extremely flimsy, and it feels like I can easily just press through the whole thing. The most stable part of the laptop is probably the screen panel, and also the top part of the laptop feels pretty solid overall. Though it's still not really metal, and I find that the bottom part of it really makes it feel like a cheap laptop, no joke. And if you guys watched my previous video where I talked about the situation that I had with this thing, they actually ended up replacing the whole motherboard in the machine. They replaced the whole main board, and I got it back saying they replaced the whole main board and the OLED screen as well. I didn't ask them to replace the OLED screen, but they replaced it anyways. I feel like this laptop, even just touching it, you can hear the sound. It feels pretty cheap, I'll be honest with you. But when it's upright like this, it doesn't feel that cheap. It feels okay, and the typing experience is pretty good too. Now let's just compare that to the Dell real quick. Now this Dell, okay, so just to recap, it's a Dell Precision 3571. And honestly, guys, after having used this thing for about a month and a half, I would say this thing is actually a beast. And look at the overall build quality of this. I feel it's way more solid. And you can see it's a little bit thicker, like there. It just feels a lot more solid and rugged here. So I'll open it up to show you. Obviously the display is nowhere near as nice. It's just a 1080p display. The typing experience is perfectly fine, I would say. Everything about this laptop just felt very rugged and pretty reliable. The only problem I ran into with this was because I'm running a dual boot system and there was an automatic software recovery tool that ran here that actually corrupted my file system on one of the drives. That was the main problem I had with this thing. But other than that, running Linux on this thing was completely seamless. I'm running Debian 12, which is a way better operating system than Windows by a mile. And I used Debian 12 as well as Fedora 40. Those are the two operating systems I'm using mostly right now. I mean, just look at the screen on this thing. It just feels more solid than this OLED panel. This OLED panel always felt a bit flimsy since the day I got it, and you can see how much it wobbles there. And this laptop's actually a touch screen and it's intended more for creators. So it's intended for creators that like draw on the screen and do like graphic design and stuff. But as you can see, whenever I touch the screen wobbles. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want my screen to wobble while I'm doing a design on there, okay? So overall, guys, if I had to choose between these two laptops and budget was a big priority, I'd probably end up going for this Dell. This is actually my backup laptop. This is a new laptop I just bought. It's my backup laptop that I'll take with me traveling. And you know why I bought a backup laptop? Because I don't trust this thing anymore. I had 2 RMAs on this ProArt. They replaced the 2 fans on the second RMA because the fans were causing a big problem.
How does having a specific laptop impact your day-to-day trading?
If you guys are getting value out of this video so far, I'd really appreciate it if you can press the like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Check out some of my trading related content. If you want to support this video directly, you can click on the first link down in the description to check out my stockbroker Interactive Brokers. I personally recommend them for US stocks and options trading, okay? Check them out. In regards to trading, I would say it's very little impact as to if you're going to make money trading or not. At the end of the day, you have to know what you're doing. You can trade from any machine as long as you know what you're doing. I made a video some time ago talking about how I shifted more towards a 1 monitor trading layout. You can check it out there. I'll put a link to it. Because back in the day when I was starting to learn, obviously I had 2 monitors and then I had 3 monitors, and there was even a moment where I was experimenting with 4 monitors, and then I downsized just to 1 because as I got more into automated trading and kind of coding my own custom indicators and getting more dialed in with how my trading approach is, I found that I didn't really need all those displays. And also the other thing is in regards to performance, when it comes to trading, most trading applications are not very resource heavy in the sense that you don't need the craziest state-of-the-art hardware to run trading applications. So the main applications that I use, number 1 is for analysis. I use Sierra Chart, which is mostly a single-threaded application, meaning it only uses 1 or 2 of your CPU cores at a time. So even if you had a machine with 2 CPU cores, or if you were running Sierra Chart on a remote server that you pay like $5 a month for that only has 2 cores on there, it would still run fine in my opinion. The main thing that you need to be concerned with when it comes to trading is not so much the hardware of your machine, but it's more in regards to the quality and the consistency of your internet connection. Now, that being said, you shouldn't neglect the hardware totally, because I would say that there's a few applications out there like web-based applications for trading and other desktop applications that might be heavier that use Java, like Interactive Brokers TWS. It will benefit you if you have a little bit more memory in your system because it's a little bit of resource heavy. So if I had to say there was a minimum hardware requirement for a trading application, I would say minimum 16 gigabytes of RAM, but you can probably get away with 8 gigabytes. And in regards to the CPU cores, I would say at least 4 cores. So that means that literally all these machines here, including my ThinkPad from 15 years ago, are all suitable machines to run trading applications on. Because like I said, the most important thing is the quality of your internet connectivity, and I would say the hardware is definitely second. I've run Sierra Chart on this 15-year-old ThinkPad and it ran fine. So the answer to that question is that you do not need a super high-end machine to run trading applications or to be a consistently profitable trader. It's not about that at all.
Knowing what you know now, what's the criteria you would go by when purchasing a new laptop?
I would say in regards to this ProArt, I was definitely sold on some of the more fancy features like the OLED screen and the big graphics card and all that. But knowing what I know now, I would say that you do not need as powerful hardware as you think. So my stance on this, and I highly doubt this is ever going to change, is that I would prefer the tried and true tested hardware and design as opposed to taking a risk buying a newer design and then, you know, dealing with any problems or flaws in the design that get uncovered later. Things that I've seen with companies like ASUS. So for example, they already came out with a new version of this laptop in 2024 called a ProArt P16 or something. And really what that means is that they're updating the design of it every year. Meaning that this machine was essentially a prototype. So when you buy a state-of-the-art machine, in my opinion, unless it's a tried and true and tested design like a ThinkPad, for example, or a Dell, which pretty much they've been making some of the same designs for many, many years, you're pretty much taking a risk because this is essentially a prototype design and you don't know what's wrong with it yet. So ask yourself that question. Would you rather use a software that's undergone loads and loads of testing, or would you rather use a software that just came out yesterday and it was only tested by one developer or two developers? You know, it's a pretty obvious answer to me, at least.
Out of all 4 laptops, which one's your pick?
That's actually a hard choice. I don't think there's such thing as a perfect laptop. I really like this laptop because it has the high-end performance and I can render out videos really fast. Though I just don't trust it anymore. That's the main problem. The main gripe I have with this thing is that I just don't trust it. I don't trust the hardware in it because, you know, it just shows that after a year, if I have to send it in for 2 repairs and they have to replace the entire motherboard as well as both of the fans, which are pretty critical components to operate the machine, because if the fan doesn't work correctly, the CPU and the graphics card don't cool, which means they don't get their full performance. So it just kind of blows my mind that that would happen 1 year after owning a laptop. And if you guys remember, the first version of this laptop that I got in the mail was actually 100% broken and I had to send it right back and they sent me the second one, which did work. I think that one of the problems that people fall into in regards to purchasing hardware and computers and technology stuff is that they tend to get sold on the latest and greatest hardware and designs and fancy things. Like for example, they put a nice OLED screen on this thing and then you got 1 or 2 YouTubers that review it and they just show how wonderful it is, and then all of a sudden everybody wants an OLED screen. And then, you know, you're buying a machine with the OLED screen on there, it's really beautiful, but of course everything else about the machine is a complete unreliable mess. And the sad part about this whole thing is that these big corporations, most of the time, just simply, they don't care. All they care about is the profits that they're making from these big machines that they're selling. Don't buy ASUS. If you have to buy a laptop, try to avoid ASUS at all costs because I find that their quality control has gone down a lot. Just the build quality of this little 14-inch Lenovo, in my opinion, I mean, it feels like a ThinkPad to me. It feels like a solid ThinkPad. Like I feel like I can beat this thing up. And I just got it today, real talk. Like I feel like I can just like throw it on there, just mess around with it. Number 1, because it's only a quarter of the price of this ProArt. And number 2, because it actually feels like a pretty solid laptop. Like it does remind me a lot, and I know the design has come a long way because this one's 15 years old and this one's a bulky beast. But, you know, it reminds me of the traditional ThinkPad design. This thing right here is just a complete beast, right? You wouldn't want to travel the world with this. It's just too big. You want something more compact, but it still works, guys. It's 15 years old and it still works, okay? So the moral of that story is get away from Microsoft Windows, install Fedora Linux, install Debian Linux, and do not buy ASUS, please. I appreciate you guys sticking around to watch this video. If you guys want to learn more about what I do here at VerrilloTrading, check out this playlist of Interactive Brokers tutorial videos where I showcase how to use their software in a very advanced way. And definitely check out this playlist if you want to know more about my trading experiences. I've been trading for about 6 years at this point. Thank you for watching. Take care.